Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this online presentation, Rethinking Diaspora Engagement, Turning Words into Action for Ukrainians Abroad. My name is Eugenia Kovalova, and I'll be your moderator today. And this event is co-hosted by Ukreate Hub and Norwegian-Ukrainian Advocacy Hub. Before I go into next slides and do some introductions, some housekeeping rules. So as said already, this meeting is being recorded. We'd like to share it with some of the people who were not able to participate today. And also for the future, it's nice to have a recording for ourselves if we want to revisit what we said. Please keep your microphones off if possible. There will be time for engagement, for comments, but please feel welcome at any time to write your comments or reflections, questions in the chat. And yes, let's dive in. One particular thing, terminology. I always say that the terms that we use are very important. So just before diving deeper, a quick note. We know from Ukreate Hub, from internal discussions and engagements with Ukrainians abroad, that the term diaspora can be perceived as not applicable to the Ukrainians who relocated, who were forced to relocate to European countries and other countries. But we use the term diaspora in a very wide sense, and it also terminology can change. When we talk to Ukrainians, we use the term in Ukrainian "Українці за кордоном," the term that is perhaps the best describes the latest movement, migration of Ukrainians. But for the sake of simplicity, sometimes we use the term of diaspora, which actually involves the Ukrainians who've recently found themselves outside of Ukraine. So, as I said, my name is Eugenia Kovalova, and I am the head of Ukreate Hub. And I'd like to use the opportunity. First, I'll present you our schedule for today, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about Ukreate Hub itself. So I'll do the introduction, and I'll lead all of us through this meeting today. We'll moderate the discussion, questions, answers. We were hoping that a representative of OECD would be able to join us today, but unfortunately she could not. But I got a permission to use a couple of her slides, so we'll talk very briefly about the work that OECD is doing in engaging Ukrainians abroad. Then we'll have kind of an inspirational presentation from a different diaspora. Dorina Baltak, she is a diaspora engagement expert for Moldova. So she will just give a brief presentation of how Moldovan diaspora is involved. And this is just as a way to also stimulate discussions, some inspiration and insights from other kind of best practices in diaspora engagement. And this will be followed by a presentation by my colleague, Natalia, from Norwegian-Ukrainian Advocacy Hub, who will actually dive in and present the document that has been developed by a group of Ukrainians from Norway, Lithuania, Germany, Estonia, and Ukraine itself. And this will be followed by time for moderated discussion, for your insights, comments to the work that we have been doing. So it will be a bit of a moderated engagement, but we'll also open the space for just back and forth Q&A. So I want to tell you a little bit about who we are, Ukreate Hub, and also mention briefly about Norwegian-Ukrainian Advocacy Hub. I'm sure Natalia will present a little bit more when she speaks. So Ukreate Hub is a Vilnius-based initiative, so Lithuania. We are dedicated to Ukrainians who were forced to flee the full-scale invasion and who found themselves in Lithuania mostly, but we do try and involve also Ukrainians from Estonia and Latvia where it's possible geographically and otherwise. What we do is we focus on investing in people and in people's capacities. So we say that we equip the Ukrainians with the necessary knowledge, skills, network, and other tools to unleash their potential for the future of sovereign and democratic Ukraine.
Я підключилася звук.
The Norwegian-Ukrainian Advocacy Hub is an independent non-profit organization based in Norway and is dedicated to strengthening ties between Norway and Ukraine. Its mission is advocacy, political influence, and further development of Ukrainian diaspora organization. And as I previously said, when we use the term diaspora, we use it in a very large sense. A couple of words about Ukreate Hub, a bit in more detail. So it was initiated in October 2022 by the Open Lithuania Foundation. And this is important because Open Lithuania Foundation is one of the oldest civil society organizations in Lithuania. We will actually celebrate 35 years anniversary this autumn. And Open Lithuania Foundation, throughout these 35 years, has been working towards preservation of democracy, for human rights, for promotion of rule of law, and generally open society. So the values of Open Lithuania Foundation also informs the work of Ukreate Hub. We are not a humanitarian organization, Ukreate Hub, but we focus on investing in sort of people's social capital with the understanding that by investing in people, we also strengthen democracy here in Lithuania and also in Ukraine. Over the past 2 years, Ukreate Hub has built a community of around 350 active Ukrainians in Lithuania, and we develop different programs that support either their professional development or civic engagement. So you can see from our thematic focus areas for 2025, and I think we will continue this focus in 2026. One of the main focuses is, of course, empowering, not of course, but it's working with Ukrainian women because majority of displaced Ukrainians are women. So we want to power and empower Ukrainian women through strengthening their professional capacities. And this can be both in non-profit sector, but also, for example, in private sector. And we do have entrepreneurship programs, for example. Our second focus area is constructing or reconstructing bridges between communities. This is very important for us because for Ukrainians in Lithuania, constructing bridges with the host society means better integration, means better use of the people's social capital, of their potential. Reconstructing bridges, would like to see Ukreate Hub as a bridge between Ukrainians who were displaced to Lithuania and Ukrainians who are remaining in Ukraine. So it's important for us to look for those ties and reconstruct them where possible to minimize the tension. So we always look for opportunities to work by connecting Ukrainians in Lithuania and in Ukraine itself. And as I was speaking about Open Lithuania Foundation, European integration, European values are at the core of our activities as Open Lithuania Foundation, and that informs also the work of Ukreate Hub. So we focus on Ukraine's Euro integration, and this is mainly done by working again with individuals and with people and building their capacities that are required for future Euro integration process. This can be work on certain standards, again, talking about European values and other things. Just briefly, we have different programs developed. What I'm presenting, couple of our projects, programs. This is not all that we are doing, but these are our main activities. We have something called Laboratory of Ideas. This is a small grants program for Ukrainians to implement social projects, small social projects, but this is a very good activation tool, and it's also because the grants are distributed in participatory grant making process, it actually the democratic process of voting is embedded into this project. I mentioned that we have entrepreneurship program for Ukrainian women. This is number 4 on this list. We also have partnered with an organization in Zaporizhia, where we are involved in veteran reintegration and resocialization project. This is one of the examples where we try to connect Ukrainians working here from Lithuania for recovery project in Ukraine itself. And we also have a lot of community events, community trainings organized by us or suggested and offered by our community members. So actually, every other week there's something happening. There's one or the other event at Ukreate Hub, either online or offline. What I haven't mentioned, we also, what is not mentioned here, we also work on different advocacy issues when it's connected to integration here in Lithuania. I know that Natalia will, when she will present the actual work that we have done, the stakeholder checklist and the roadmap, she will talk more about the project, but just to give you a little bit of frame, what it is, we gathered 26 Ukrainian activists and community leaders, organization leaders in Oslo, to actually discuss what are the challenges, what is the potential of Ukrainian-led organizations abroad. And out of this work, the document was created that Natalia will present later. Ave Lauren from OECD was supposed to join us today, but she couldn't. But she kindly allowed me to use a couple of her slides to present. And we really wanted this also to give kind of a bigger theoretical framework for what we are doing, because actually the work of Ukreate Hub and also the work of Norwegian-Ukrainian Advocacy Hub is very well in line with how OECD sees contribution of Ukrainians abroad to the recovery of Ukraine. So, and actually, OECD is involved in preparing a set of recommendations for Ukrainian government on how to, on different things, but among other, on how to engage with the Ukrainians abroad and how to structure the return and reintegration support, or on a larger scale involving Ukrainians abroad in other ways without return, for example. So the premise, the main premise here for OECD is that with a huge number of displaced Ukrainians, it changes the role of Ukrainians abroad from a mere object of policy to actually people who are can be shaping policies. So, and Ukrainians abroad with this large number, 4 million or 6 million, or even if older diaspora is counted, it can be counted as a 22 million of people of Ukrainian descent abroad. This is a really a huge force and a huge asset. So OECD talks about dual intent integration support, and this is mainly means that the return should be voluntary and assisted, but even people who decide to stay abroad for the time being, maybe for the 10 years or 15 years, who will remain abroad for the foreseeable future, they they actually can be a strong strategical asset for Ukraine, and therefore the dual intent integration is that both host countries integrate the Ukrainians that they are hosting, but also there is connection to what Ukraine is planning to do in terms of policies and different laws, how to reintegrate returning Ukrainians. So it has to be a wholesome system that considers all the stakeholders. And for the host countries, what is suggested is that they have to invest in human capital development, and this is something that we at Ukreate Hub is strongly advocating for, investing in people. Some of the more technical things is mutual recognition of skills and qualifications, offering language courses, and actively facilitating financial and digital ties to Ukraine while staying abroad. And we also, here we can also talk about temporary mobilities where people live permanently in a European country but move between the countries. So there can be different ways of Ukrainians abroad contributing to the recovery and being an asset for Ukraine without necessarily returning back to Ukraine permanently. And I know that Dorina has already joined us, and I will rush to give her the space to talk since I know she doesn't have much time, but just want to briefly show you.
Please don't rush, Eugenia. I asked for a delay for the next session, so please take your time.
Perfect. I think I'll need 5 more minutes and then I'll introduce you. Great. So how, and again, this is the information from OECD. So I want to make sure that they are referenced properly since she couldn't be here today. This is an example of how existing Ukrainian diaspora structures have been already supporting displaced Ukrainians. There were safe spaces created for belonging. So there is a huge need for Ukrainians to feel that they belong to community. So spaces for belonging, support, and solidarity were created by diaspora communities. Diaspora organizations were also connecting newcomers to services and local systems in the host country. Many initiatives, many cultural initiatives were created or were used for preserving cultural and linguistic ties to Ukraine. This is celebration of Ukrainian national holidays, teaching Ukrainian language to kids and teenagers, even to grown-ups. Another way of supporting, another way that existing diaspora structures have been involved is being mediators between the community, the community of newcomers and the institutions. So kind of being a connector between what are the actual needs of these new arrivals and how to translate that to the institution. And also amplifying, organizations have been amplifying displaced Ukrainians in public and policy spaces. When we at Ukreate Hub look at these examples of how different structures have been already supporting Ukrainians, we definitely see that our work reflected here, and we want to strengthen and also inspire others that there can be done. If you haven't been doing something, maybe other things can be done besides 1 or 2 activities that have been implemented by your organization. And my last slide before I present Dorina. Our role at Ukreate Hub, and this is, and I believe also the role of Norwegian-Ukrainian Advocacy Hub, is to communicate the message that Ukrainians abroad or the newly formed diaspora, people who were forcibly displaced, that they are not mere refugees or objects of policies, recipient of policy of refugee support and so on, but that they are active, that they are agents. They have the agency to speak on their behalf, to speak on behalf of Ukraine, to advocate for Ukraine, and as a big group of such people, it can be a crucial strategic asset for Ukraine's resilience, recovery, and reconstruction. And here again from OECD, some examples how Ukrainians abroad can actually contribute to that. So contribute to economic revitalization through remittances and investment. We know as a fact, Ukrainians abroad are massively collecting donations for supporting different units on the front line, for humanitarian support. This can actually be even more amplified by thinking about investments in recovery, investments in businesses in Ukraine on a larger scale, for example. Support entrepreneurship and job creation across sectors. As an example, Ukreate Hub, we already support entrepreneurs, emerging entrepreneurs in Lithuania, Ukrainians who want to start business out of necessity, but also as a way of being active and productive. The diaspora can also reinforce institutional capacity during the recovery, promote international advocacy and sustain global solidarity. I think all the Ukrainians that have been gathered in our programs, or probably you who are joining us today, you've been part of protest actions, other solidarity actions, speaking on behalf of Ukraine and Ukrainian victory. The diaspora also preserves cultural identity, fosters civic engagement abroad, which can also be translated back to Ukraine. And diaspora is fostering transnational engagement with displaced Ukrainians. And I think today the result of our work is actually one example exactly of that, that we gathered Ukrainians from different countries, and we are offering a tool on how to engage with displaced Ukrainians from across different countries. This would have been presented much better by a colleague from OECD. Unfortunately, she couldn't join, but she allowed me to use a couple of slides from her more extensive presentation. But if you want to learn more, we can also send you a link to OECD work, share with you after this presentation. I would like to present Dr. Dorina Baltag. She's a co-founder of Norok Hollanda Stichting. I hope I pronounced that well. And she's a diaspora engagement expert. She's also a postdoctoral researcher with over a decade of experience in higher education institutions, mainly in the UK and Netherlands. And she has been involved with the engagement of Moldovan diaspora and has some really great examples that she can share with us today of how diaspora can be engaged, what can be done actually when the diaspora is consolidated across different countries. So while I switch to Dorina's presentation, Dorina, maybe you can say a couple of words. And thank you so much for joining. I know you've been in between flights and meetings, so I really appreciate you actually making the time and being able to join today.
Thank you, Eugenia. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm very happy to meet more diaspora and connect and relate somehow to the Ukrainian fellows. So I'm very open to any type of questions from, I know this meeting is recorded, but we also can do some questions on the Chatham House rules if they are more sensitive. I think I took a bit of an honest approach of storytelling. I wanted to share more how my organization became a partner, a strategic partner for the development of my home country, which is Republic of Moldova, and how in the Moldovan diaspora, which is now a case study of democratic change, given the last electoral elections that tilted the balance towards from a let's say, pro-Russian perspective to a pro-European perspective in the country, choosing again our president Maya Sandu, but also combating disinformation, which is a pain point also for Ukraine. And last but not least is how we invested in using our professional expertise to become of value to our country. So one of my other hats, and these are the three points which I'll be discussing with you, is being recruited as an international consultant on brain gain strategies. And it is interesting to see how initially in my career, it was my academic hat that was important, but then what became more crucial is the balance with the practice that I have being in the diaspora, investing in diaspora, having my own organization. So that's the story I'm going to share, and we can, I think, continue with the next slide. The story of Norokolanda started in 2012. That's the name of the diaspora organization that the foundation that I co-founded. But the initiative group was founded by me and a couple of other Moldovans. If we go back to 2012, and the picture that you see is literally we were sitting on the floor of my apartment in a little town in the south of the Netherlands, where back in the days I was in between my Master of Science and my PhD. And there was one Moldovan lady who came and said, "Do you know any other Moldovans? Because I literally only know you and one more person." So we were 3 Moldovans in Maastricht, and then we connected to another 5 and another 10. This was a time when Facebook and Instagram and everything else was not necessarily a tool. So we were very happy to transition in a couple of months to these 16 lovely Moldovans who decided that we will start with an initiative group. And consolidating this group, we actually did a lot of things before legally registering an organization. And Norokolanda is a case study in itself for other diaspora communities of Moldovan migrants. All right, so if we go to the next slide, I'm going to walk you through our story, and then I will connect to some of our flagship programs, and I will tell you how we started solo, and then we moved to partnerships, and then we moved to building a diaspora network, the first network representing Moldovan organizations abroad. Our first steps were just basically to count how many Moldovans are in the Netherlands, who they are, and what they do. And we quickly found out that we are professionals, highly skilled migrants, which were recruited to come to the Netherlands, around 35. And towards 2014, we identified 98. So not a large community. Even today, Moldovans in the Netherlands are the smallest diasporic community in the European Union, but also if we compare it to Switzerland or I think with Norway, we're a bit bigger, but in comparison to Switzerland, we're still smaller. So what united us was a need to know each other, and this will be a red thread which made a U-turn because we always focused on the needs. The second step in the next couple of years, we established contact points in different cities, and this is all being done pro bono. Even until today, the foundation is a volunteer-based organization where diaspora professionals are giving input via expertise, their time, their connections, and our next observation was that in the Netherlands, Moldova is being known not from a positive perspective, but rather from the conflict in Transnistria and the stationing of the Russian army. the huge impact of migration. 1/3 of the population of Moldova is abroad, and that meant a lot of villages with the elderly population taking care of children. And this type of themes were not the only thing that Moldova has to share. So we invested in country branding, and we were reaching out to Dutch stakeholders to talk about Moldova differently. And we started with our cultural heritage, and then later we moved towards expertise, and that was already towards 2020. The next step in doing so, in promoting our country a bit differently in a more creative manner, to our events, we had Moldovan diaspora from France, from Belgium, so from the countries which are bordering some sort or are neighbors to the Netherlands, joining us and saying, "Why don't we do something together?" And again, we would go back to what brought us together is the problems that the Moldovan society was facing in different either rural areas or at national policy levels. And we were monitoring reforms in different areas, and we could see that we were very good in aligning to the European Union, even before becoming a candidate country on paper, but reforms were not being implemented. So we said, why don't we develop cross-diaspora partnerships? And we partnered 3 or 4 organizations from, usually it was with Belgium, with France and Estonia. We looked at good practices in this country, and then we would implement activities in Moldova. To usually partnering with civil society. And in parallel to that, we reached out to other stakeholders like development partners, like ministries, like the presidency and national agencies. And it took from 2000, I think, 14-16 till 2020 to actually become a well-known partner, a partner who is today sought for consulting on documents, going to meetings, closed doors, looking into sensitive issues. And myself and other colleagues are currently consulting different governmental players in how to advance for example, the EU reforms. So then the next step was consolidation of our foundation. And we looked at all our activities, much of which we revised, half of them we decided to no longer invest, but only to invest in flagship programs. So we started talking about sustainability. So I think that was the next pain point. And this helped us transition to what we're doing today. Investing in diaspora as a Moldovan civil society abroad. We're transferring expertise, we're working in a network, and we're investing in capacity building of other diaspora organizations. So the next slide is going to show you our vision and mission statement, which changed since 2020. So we're looking more outside of the Netherlands and not inside. We believe strongly that Moldovan diaspora is already empowered to be a strategic partner to build a democratic and a European Moldova. And we continue to empower diasporic communities as well as build bridges and strengthen these connections between different stakeholders, which is very important that we are part of the agenda setting. We're part of the conversation and not only on the receiving end. I think in the next slide, if I remember correctly, is how we transitioned from flying solo to doing things in partnership. And then now we're discussing about cooperation as a diaspora network. We just finalized last week a 3-day interactive forum where the 30 diaspora leaders, together with the Central Electoral Committee and the State Chancellery, sat together in co-working groups and did exercises like analyzing the problem tree, understanding how to be more creative and what the state can do and what diaspora can do when it comes to electoral integrity or fighting disinformation. So literally, we moved from partnerships to cooperation in a network. We are not giving our diaspora partners our, let's say, blueprint and just do it like we said, but we rather sit down, we're consulting each other, we're co-creating, we are planning, we're delegating. So we reached this little moment of joint ownership, and in a couple of weeks we will be launching the first diaspora network, let's say at a transnational level. The transition, what helped us through this is in this, some of the activities which I mentioned here is that we looked into what unites us, what our vision is together. So we might have different instruments and different values and different expertise, but we all wanted the same thing. And the value behind it was the well-being of Moldovan citizens at home, but also of Moldovan citizens abroad. So, and basically democracy was the uniting element in this sense. So you could see that we were the first ones to first go back home, and I think we were a bit ahead of time because we took 116 professionals in Moldova for a first public policy event where we wanted to showcase the expertise and basically asking different ministries and different departments to use this expertise. It was a good piloting moment, but we were a bit ahead of time and there was not so much openness. So we had to reconsider, and we started investing in building bridges between diaspora professionals abroad with Moldovans from civil society, from mass media at home, and we brought in youth. And then we said, okay, let's why we asked ourselves, why are we not heard as a diaspora community? Because we were not inviting to any consultations, to very important meetings, to be part of the agenda setting. We were part of the implementing side of the policy. And that's when we developed a training of trainers, learning space, a virtual one. And we said, all right, let's invest in organizational growth of each diaspora leader that is interested in this, because we are all doing diaspora outside of our jobs, outside of our hobbies, and outside of our family. So on top of, or in addition to this, and once we started doing that, we're very proud to say that the state chancellor then was inspired by Academia Diaspora that we launched in 2020, this learning space, and last year they implemented their own learning program and they invited us to be trainers there. I'm going to move towards 2024, which was last year a pivotal moment, and I mentioned this. In the case of the Moldovan diaspora, from 2020, it did a huge change in leveraging its vote to become a well-known voice for the Moldovan president, for the Moldovan parliament. But what was the missing link again, and the need was to invest in civic education campaigns, and that we no longer work in silos, but rather build together. So what united us was actually the massive Russian disinformation campaigns and hybrid wars. So we thought of co-creating products together, and we consulted not only with diaspora, but with state actors to understand where the pain points are and where a state institution cannot argue against the disinformation campaign. So we were more creative in doing so. I can't recall what's in the next slide. So yeah, I selected a couple of flagship programs where we invested in education and supporting each other and growing together. So you could see that we started with the learning program, but then we went into electoral education, the Diaspora for EU, and the Diaspora for EU also implied lobbying and advocacy. Also, for the first time, we took diaspora organizations to European Union institutions. We launched a study visit for them, because you cannot have promoters of the European Union relying on Hungarian or Italian press, if you know what I mean. But you want actually for them to socialize with the Brussels bubble and understand it for themselves rather than us telling them what it is and what it means. Another flagship initiative we're very proud of is the citizen diplomacy, where we bring together diaspora from abroad, Moldovans from abroad and Moldovans back at home to work in mixed teams so that societal polarization, which is a huge issue for a Republic of Moldova, that this gap becomes smaller rather than bigger. And now another flagship program is Democrația la Raport, which ad literal means democracy under scrutiny or under report. So we are connecting diaspora actors to electoral education, to civic activism, to creating synergies, to combating disinformation, and to networking. Next. Yes, so we are having elections yet again, and what Norocolanda is also good at, I believe, is thinking outside of the box. The text actually says it's from our campaign, what's in the box. So instead of only thinking of get out the vote campaigns, which are very, very typical, and I think that's also going to be true for Ukrainian diaspora when you'll be voting. Your activities will revolve around mobilizing citizens to vote and fighting disinformation. It's a hybrid war that we are living on top of the war that is happening in your country, of course. So we thought, based on our 7 years of get out the vote experiences, 7 electoral years, what can we do differently? And this is where working together with other diaspora organizations helped us to say, let's create a data repository and we all contribute and then we all use it. We just put it on the drive and then people use it to fight disinformation, to use evidence-based arguments, to have access to experts, because we created expert roundtables in European capitals. We also asked diaspora professionals to use their expertise and to write not only in the Moldovan media, but rather in the European press, be vocal about what's actually going on and explaining the realities in Moldova. And of course, we did some fun networking workshops and pub quizzes, which were very famous, and all of this is quite hot, and we're going to reuse this kit in the current electoral year. I think in the next slide, we will be coming to what's the novelty and the innovation and what Moldova has been praised for. I come from academia, as Eugenia also mentioned, and in my PhD many years ago, writing policy briefs or being in meetings with stakeholders in the European bubble was part of data collection. So I said, why not create the first ever white paper? It's a type of policy document, and understanding the vulnerabilities that Moldova is going through, I said we can use our professional expertise. And we created this white paper, and then we validated it in 3 instances. In Vienna, we met with different stakeholders and we presented the data. We received feedback. We did the same in The Hague with Dutch parliamentarians. And at the beginning of this year, I think on 29th of January, we were received in the European Parliament, where we validated our results. And our intent was to continue to lobby and to advocate, because we understand that in the parliamentary elections, the current government is not going to hold the majority. Hopefully, they'll take the simple majority. But so far, from my research, things are looking a bit bleak. So we tried to showcase that it is important to keep Moldova on the agenda, where to focus, and what is different in this white paper than what think tanks do in European capitals. We talk about diaspora civil society and why it is important to bring it in rather than leave it out at the receiving end. So Eugenia, and this is, I think these are my last points. Eugenia asked me to reflect on lessons learned. I think in the last 10 plus years of Norway, but also probably in my hat as consulting and building instruments on diaspora engagement. And on the next slide, I thought in push and pull factors. These are just a few, and they work together. They are not separately. Usually one acts as push and pull depending on the circumstance. And I think you already, from what I know from Eugenia, what you have been doing, you will notice that. So point number one, and this was from the trajectory of Norway, we couldn't create partnerships in diaspora, but especially with state actors at the time when we didn't have a common vision or a clear purpose. So understanding the why of our collaboration was very important. So I usually say it is like in a marriage, two people understand that they're in a marriage, but their end goal might be very, very different. One person wants to end up in Barcelona and the other one in Helsinki. Clearly, something went wrong, and I think what went wrong is the why of being together. The next one is mutual trust and respect. And when you are in diaspora, this will matter a lot. It is important that both sides recognize the added value and the differences. So where you leverage your expertise, but also when you avoid the hierarchies and you move towards network form, but without the trust between actors, many of our initiatives were not received, or we did not receive initiatives from, let's say, shady politicians, or we didn't want to receive certain people at a round table. And that's important to have trust and you have the same value base. Communication. Communication is key to any synergy, any partnership, any network. And one point for our time in our data collection is that those communication channels are clear. Very often somebody uses Telegram, but you were informed that information will come via email, for example, and that then can be a bottleneck. But I think the most important point is transparent practices and honest and constructive feedback. And I think this is still work in progress when it comes to communication. Diaspora is a bit of a critical voice in the case of Republic of Moldova. And very often, if you're a bit more Nordic, a bit more blunt, it is not very well received. So you have to find a way to still be transparent and constructive in your feedback without being off-putting. On the right side, I talk about complementarity and division of roles. In the case of the Moldovan diaspora, much of its efforts throughout decades was about investing in terms of money, so buying apartments, everything that's material. And this is what it has been seen as a force because it was contributing to the national budget, and usually it was covering for gaps in that budget. Hence, using the expertise wasn't really a thing. But now diaspora is about human capital, social capital, cultural capital, and know-how. Not necessarily know what, but know how to do certain things. And you can see that now diaspora is returning especially for that. And we try to avoid the application of efforts, and the consultation process actually really helps. The next point is a tricky one. It is sensitive because everybody talks about sharing and joint ownership when it comes to resources and tools. People do not like to share, even if you have a contact list of people in your network. Another network that I'm part of, or I'm one of the coordinators, is in higher education, professionals in higher education. And for example, universities do not like to share even the information that we send to them. Sometimes we are lacking this. So common access to data sets or guides or best practices is very, very important. Last but not least, long-term commitment. And this is something that we have learned through several iterations, that collaboration does not stop at one project. When we had partnership, it was Activity done, activity done. We would do the reports, the lesson learning, but it would be there. And then COVID helped us or helped me where I said, okay, we need to stop. We have multiple activities. Let's build flagship programs and invest in sustainability and continuity, and which helped us to start talking about alignment of our goals and visions with other actors, including with development partners. And I think the last point is my personal input. Not sure if there is one more slide. Yes. This is me in case you haven't, you will forget how I look. So what are some success moments? Because I think to me, success is a process and not an end goal. But what helped me through dark times, so to speak, in diaspora, is to talk less and work more on my own or in silence instead of being on social media. And when you remove all this maze of information, actually, we started building better products. We throughout 10 plus years, so many actors we have met, and we noticed the ones that stay and our long terms is where value-based, we are value-based, we're similar in values. We click maybe also energetically, not also intellectually. And we started saying no, and I think that's okay as well to understand that, especially when there are pressure moments. So I understand the elections are not necessarily a pressure point, but they are for Moldova. But a war is something that unites people, but you also have to choose people you want to work with and create synergies, and that's totally okay to say no. The next point is very much coming from my academic background, because at Maastricht University, where I was a lecturer, but also I also lived in the USA as a student. Their problem-based learning was a thing. So to us, as a community, or to me, it was important to build a problem-based community in the sense that we talk less about the problems, but we more think of solutions. And sometimes solutions would imply just being an active listener and not giving ideas, but just listening to understand what the problem is really about. And last but not least, and this also comes from experts a bit bigger than me with more years of experience working with diaspora, kill the ego. It should be in quotations. It sounds very harsh. Many of amazing initiatives and synergies and networks have died in no time, in a couple of years, because it was very ego driven. So in all my activities, I always remind colleagues in diaspora, first invest in mind, body, spirit relationship with yourself. And when you are okay with yourself, I think that's when you can build bigger things out there. And that's it. You have my email, and my LinkedIn is hyperlinked in the beginning of the presentation. And this is Norocolanda in case you want to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We do post in Romanian mainly, but I think with Google Translate these days, automatic translation, you can see what we are really about. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Darina, so much. I felt like everything you were saying was so interesting, because I mean, this is 10 years of your work in the diaspora, and I personally, and I hope the audience can actually feel that knowledge there. And I think a lot of things were relevant, even though this was a presentation not about Ukrainian diaspora, but we actually wanted to bring a different perspective, and Moldovan diaspora with the challenges that Moldova faces is not, of course, on the same level as Ukraine, but some similarities are there. Accession to European Union, the fight of disinformation, massive disinformation campaigns directed at Moldova and Ukraine, anti-European disinformation. So I think there are also like layers of similarities, and also I think some really good examples of what can be done once we are consolidated, and what kind of, and I think thank you so much for talking about lessons learned. I think that was also very important. I would like to rush to Natalia. to present. Dorina, if you can, please stay. If not, thank you so much.
I think I will leave because in 3 minutes I really have to be in a different meeting. But you reminded me of one thing, and I'll just quickly want people to reflect for 30 seconds. Who do you think is the most or the biggest powerful diaspora at the level of the European Union and probably globally, but at the European level of Europe?
This is an open question to us.
It's an open question for everyone to reflect what countries come to mind. Because to me, that was a surprise in 2020. I didn't realize that, although I should have.
We can put the answers in the chat box, maybe.
Yes, you could. You could.
I think it's Nigeria. But can you repeat the question and people can just put their answers in the chat box?
What country comes to mind, or maybe what diaspora comes to mind? What diaspora comes to mind as the most influential at the level of the EU or European or Europe, broadly speaking?
Okay.
Okay,
So
there is
please put some answers into the chat box. Natalia, maybe you can start sharing your presentation and present yourself. We are moving towards presenting the work that we actually did, Ukreate Hub, together with Norwegian-Ukrainian Advocacy Hub. Natalia, the floor is yours with no more delay.
Thank you so much, Evgenia. Thank you, Dorina, also for a fantastic presentation. And I believe that we have so much to learn from each other. And that's why it's so important that we bring different experiences here in this very same session where we can exchange, compare, and build on knowledge and practices of each other. So, as Evgenia already mentioned a few times, my name is Natalia Yeremeeva. I'm a co-founder of the organization that is called the Norwegian-Ukrainian Advocacy Hub. We are a relatively young organization, which my colleague and co-founder, Natalia Solotka, and I have established just half a year ago. We were officially registered in January 2025, but both Natalia and I and other activists that have become a part of our team have been active in different Ukrainian-led initiatives in Norway for years. So we decided to come together to unite our efforts to start to build an organization of a new type. We hope, we believe that we can achieve that, and we would like to focus a lot on information work, advocacy, but also on something extremely important. This already was mentioned by both Evgenia and I believe Dorina already has gone a little bit through that. This is the role of diaspora organizations in a bigger context, in a bigger picture, in diversity politics, how not to be locked in your own national bubble. And this is something that we will be doing ahead, and we have some projects coming. But our philosophy is in many ways very similar to the one of Ukreate Hub. And I believe that this project we have had together was a very important synergy, because both Evgenia and I have not really realized until we met and spoke that we had the same dream and the same vision that both of us shared, but we spoke about it like separately, independently. And out of a sudden, when this project came into being, we realized that we're working towards more or less the same goal. We in Norwegian-Ukrainian Advocacy Hub also truly believe that people is the most important resource. We believe in people. We believe in investing in people, first of all, through building their capacity. We also believe that immigrant voices do matter a lot. And at least when it comes to the Norwegian society, but I believe this is also the case of many other societies, especially after how the Ukrainian community has been transformed during the last 3-4 years, Ukrainians do have a very good possibility of taking the leading role. And this is something we also would like to explore, at least here in Norway, and see how this can come about. But again, now to the main mission of mine today here, this document I would like to present. We worked a lot and we had lots of discussions trying to figure out how we can call it and how how to present it, and how to show what we really have produced together with Ukreate Hub. From needs to action, a roadmap for supporting Ukrainian organizations abroad. Well, what I have to mention here is that it's more than just a report, because obviously we had to produce a report as the result of the joint project that we have realized in March, April this year. And this is the project Eugenia has outlined, and the project that has brought together the activists of different organizations, Ukrainian-led organizations throughout Europe. But at the same time, we didn't want it to be just an official, boring, dry report, as some of them are. We wanted to look at this document as more as a tool. It was also kind of a challenge for us. And it turned out to be a call for partnership. At least I would like to believe that. So this is how I would like you to look at it as well, because it focuses a lot more on the result of the joint work than merely on describing the project. Because, you know, if you want to learn more about the project, just read the project proposal. But here we wanted to concentrate more on what we have worked out together. And this is what I'm going to present to you. Now, let's start with the bigger picture. It has been said a lot about the changing role of the Ukrainian communities abroad. Eugenia has outlined in a very good way how we use the term diaspora. Diaspora and Ukrainian-led organizations, Ukrainian organizations abroad, all these terms are going to be used interchangeably in our conversation. They're also used interchangeably in our document. We do look at diaspora in a very broad sense, not trying to limit it only to people who have been residing abroad permanently. But in case of Ukraine, we also would like to include all those who are outside of Ukraine temporarily, but still do perform a very important function as the old diaspora has been doing for many, many years. What we see now these days is that across borders, Ukrainians are organizing, they're advocating, they're active, they're shaping narratives. And what we see is that their resilience is not connected only to the survival modus. Their resilience is, first of all, in their agency. And agency was also one of the key words we had throughout our project, and especially when it culminated in the participants meeting physically in Oslo for a study visit. We spoke a lot about our agency. We spoke a lot about how to become the agents of change, how to be active, how to shape the narratives, how not to simply respond to the events happening around us, but also to be the producer of the things around us. And this is extremely important. This is what we have realized, that at least those people who have gathered and many other Ukrainians, they are about that. So it's what is important here. We very often, you know, in many contexts think that, well, diaspora or people living outside of their home country, they need to be taught different things, right? Someone has to tell them. Some politicians from their home country have to come and tell them how things function, what their role can be, how they can advocate, how they can lobby. Well, this is quite different with Ukrainians. We have seen such a great number of proactive, fantastic people who know what they're doing, who are already the agents of change. There are just as many passive and those who are not really doing enough or not doing anything. This is also the case, and we will be speaking about that later on. But this is probably the case with any big immigrant group outside their own home country. This is what happens when you are a lot. You have all different kinds of people. But what really characterizes Ukrainians abroad these days is that we have a great number of resourceful, fantastic people who are the expert in different fields, who know what they're doing. And we're not just the passive victims. even though our experiences and many people come being extremely traumatized, many people come carrying lots of heavy stuff, but at the same time, they still are the agents of change. And this is something to bear in mind. And this is what characterizes the Ukrainians abroad these days. Well, we have been doing lots of different sessions, both online and offline during this project. Many of you have already received the document I'm presenting, so you know a little bit of the outline. Before the group of these fantastic participants came for a study visit in Oslo, they had the possibility to meet online twice as a part of the project in March and April 2025, and before that in a little bit of a bigger group in December 2024 to outline some of the important things and look at the stakeholder list. So this has been a big process of communication, and we have already seen that diaspora is an extremely important strategic partner in many ways. We have seen through the interaction of these resourceful individuals, the experts, they are not just simpler beneficiaries. And what we're doing is not really charity. And the whole process of interaction is also a process of co-creation of the knowledge, co-creation of the narrative, co-creation of the power, institutional knowledge, you name it. And these people we have gathered and many others who applied and were not able to be part, or we just could not accept so many people into this project, but so many other active Ukrainians, they're not just simply the beneficiaries, they are true leaders. And this is something that is extremely important. This is a group of people one can really rely on. Ukraine as a state can rely on them, their host countries can rely on them, but there are many other stakeholders who can do exactly the same. Oops. Now, why the roadmap? How have we created this whole thing? What is important here is that this document we're presenting today is not a desk research. This is not something we as a group of Ukreate Hub and Norwegian-Ukrainian Advocacy Hub set together and designed. This was a completely different thing. What we have done, we have based ourselves on the process of co-creation, on the process of collective construction of knowledge when we brought together all the participants of our projects, and we have filled them up with knowledge and practices and different insights, and at the end they had to work themselves. They worked collectively in a very intensive training, and you will be able to see the outline of the training at the end of the document. So we will share it, and it can be repeated by any of you. And they have worked out what we see the culmination of this project, and this is the solidarity checklists, which are like the central point of this collective work. So the entire document, the entire roadmap, and the solidarity checklists are based exactly on the knowledge produced by the group of people who have gathered together. So this is not something we have taken from the internet, from other reports, or from other experts. This is what people have shared. We know that obviously this checklist probably bear the weight of the local situation in Norway and Lithuania, because the majority of the participants came from these two countries. We had a few more. We had Germany and Estonia and Ukraine on the list, but obviously the majority came from Norway and Lithuania. And I can hypothesize that maybe if you decide to use our methodology and repeat the same training and do the same work, maybe your checklist will be slightly different if you conduct it in other countries. But at the same time, it just reflects that the local context really means a lot. And with that in mind, I do also encourage you, because you will see some of the sections of the document saying, how you can use it and what you can do with it. This is something that can be repeated. And this is how we produced it. We knew what we were doing. This is the methodology that can be taken and used by anyone. You don't have to be Ukrainian to do that. You can do that for any other diaspora group, any other immigrant group, in any other country. And then you will be able to create exactly the same tools, practical tools, to be used by different stakeholders. So this guide we have created is not only a practical tool to be used, this is also a methodology that can be repeated. It can be done over again in a completely different context, and then we can compare, how it plays out. So this is something also to bear in mind. Right. So what are the solidarity checklists? I've mentioned that a few times, and the solidarity checklist usually, well, there are 5 of them. They take only 5 pages in this entire document, and the rest is a long text trying to describe and explain what these checklists are about. These are the tools that can be used by different stakeholder groups. And again, it was a long process to choose this particular 5 stakeholder groups we have used in this project. And again, thank you so much to cooperation partners of the Ukreate Hub and Eugenia, and all of those who have gathered already starting from December 2024, trying to work out which stakeholders are relevant in this context and should be chosen. And this is what we came to. We came to the host countries, obviously, all those countries where Ukrainians have found refuge, especially after the full-scale invasion. We have Ukraine as a country, first of all, meaning the authorities of the country at different levels. We have the international donors, or all kinds of institutions and organizations giving Ukrainians the possibility to implement different projects that grant money to, well, not only Ukrainians, obviously, but that are open for Ukrainians as well. It can be different organizations at the European level, but it also can be some national organizations in different host countries. We have the private sector. We used to call it business at the beginning, but then thought that the private sector should be more of a general term, allowing us to look at the entire sector more broadly. And we finally have the Ukrainians abroad. And then I will refer again to the very fact that there are now so many Ukrainians outside of their home country, and there are many of them who are strong, resourceful, and active, but there are also quite a lot who are quite passive and haven't really understood how to use their role in being a part of different organizations and contributing to their home country. So we had to put them as a separate stakeholder group, because we've heard so many times from many of our colleagues, but what do we do? What do we do with so many others whom it's so difficult to activate, just to bring into action, include? So that's how these 5 stakeholder groups were created. And finally, our whole philosophy that you see throughout the whole roadmap is that it moves from intention to action. We have had online meetings. We have had physical meeting as a part of the study visit. We have had the training, and now we have come with the checklists that can be used by different stakeholders. And now I will come right into the presentation, very brief presentation of the checklists and who they can be used by as a concrete tool, as a concrete action, as a concrete plan. And this is something for you to bear in mind. If you're a representative of one of those the stakeholder groups, this is for your direct use. If you are a part of the Ukrainian community abroad or any other diaspora group, this is something that you can promote the stakeholders using. So it's very easy. It's no matter who you represent, you will be able to do something with this particular tool. I will not go through every question and through every formulation in the checklists. But as I said, there are 5 different stakeholders we have outlined. There are 5 different solidarity checklists we have created. Each of them has a short explanation about the role of Ukrainians and Ukrainian organizations abroad in connection with the stakeholder. This is what you see in the box on top. And then it also has a number of questions. And all of those are yes, no questions, which the stakeholder can answer by just ticking the box. And then you see you can use this tool as an indication of how many of the areas outlined by our participants, worked out and formulated in a form of questions, are covered by each particular stakeholder. If the stakeholder cannot answer yes to the question and cannot tick the box, this is the indication that this is the area one should think a little bit more about. This is the area of consideration if the change is necessary. If it's necessary to do something with it, if it's necessary to activate the relationships and build more communication around the issue. Some of the topics in the checklists are very similar. So here you see the host countries. We also have Ukraine. The topics of integration and culture, disinformation, they go through all the lists, more or less. We had to be very careful and warn our participants who worked out during the training that the current full-scale war in Ukraine should not dominate the focus. We should not concentrate only on the question of integration. This checklist should include a variety of issues that are important for reconstruction in Ukraine, and not only connected to the situation with the Ukrainian refugees abroad. And this is also very important. That's why we try to navigate and try to formulate as many important questions as possible. We have the international donors, a very particular groups. We know that the grant possibilities are very good now in many countries all over Europe, but at the same time, we hear all the time from our very active, very strong Ukrainian colleagues that it's not so easy to apply. It's not so easy to build the relationships with the donors. We believe that the donors should be a part, one of the stakeholders mentioned here, and we hope truly that for the international donors in different countries to go through the list and see how they're ready to bring the Ukrainian organizations on board, if they're ready to support this extreme movement, this very important movement Ukrainian organizations are facing right now, is also one of the things that is extremely important. Private sector. We hear from many of our colleagues that it's not so often that Ukrainians cooperate with business. It's not so often we use all the connections, all the possibilities, all the opportunities that open in this particular field. And we hope that by creating this particular solidarity checklist, we can probably activate someone from the private sector, some businesses or some organizations into being more active in supporting Ukrainian organizations abroad. And finally, the very last list is has been created to take into account all the Ukrainians abroad. The Ukrainian community who is not organized, as well as, those representatives who were part of our projects. These are just people, some of them are very active and they donate and they send money to Ukraine and they just do certain things, but they're still not a part of a bigger movement. Someone is so busy with their personal problems and their integration and other things that they have not even thought of being a part of a force supporting Ukraine's reconstruction. So this is the list for them. This is the list for all of us to use on those who we think can become a more active member and who has the potential to build on their knowledge, on their experiences, and on the things they have gathered throughout these years. Well, as I already said, this is not really a report. As you see, these 5 solidarity checklists I have presented, they are a concrete, practical tool. It's also a call for action, obviously, because they can be used by any of us. They can be delivered to the local municipality, to the ministry, to the donor who usually gives grants to local organizations, or just to a normal organization next door that could be more active in supporting Ukrainian organizations. It can be delivered to your neighbor, and just with the question, can you just take a look and see, if maybe you can do something else, and it can be good both for you and for Ukraine as well. We have said many times, and I put it here as a quote, the ball is now on your court. And this is the quote that goes to all our stakeholders. We now, our group of active, fantastic Ukrainians have created this list, and we would like different stakeholders to show their will to start using this tool. The ball is on their court now, because we hope that by answering the questions in the checklist, they will be able to see themselves. They don't even have to report it, but to see themselves if what they're doing is enough in supporting the Ukrainian initiatives, if what they're doing is enough in supporting Ukraine as a country, if what they're doing has the potential of becoming something bigger. And this is not something we expect people to do in a year or so. This is something every single stakeholder can start doing already now, from day one, without reporting, without being vocal about that, just bearing in mind that there are things that can be done to make the situation more effective, that make the situation better. I will just finish very fast and say that diaspora organizations, as we have seen, cannot and should not operate in their own bubble. This is extremely important, that we Ukrainians gather together and exchange knowledge and experience. Also, we should understand that when we brought all the stakeholders in picture, we encourage cross-sector collaboration. This is extremely important. We see the lasting impact. We see the goals that all of us have. This is something bigger. This is the principle that the synergies, they create something bigger, just the sum of the elements it contains. So we see that Ukrainians coming out of their own bubble, trying to speak with other immigrant groups, trying to speak with other stakeholders, other people not being a part of Ukrainian-led organizations, but still wanted to make a difference. This all is a benefit for all of us. And we have heard from our participants, and we reflected a lot on that. When I say we, I first of all mean the Ukreate Hub and the Norwegian-Ukrainian Advocacy Hub. What's going to come next, right? Because there's so many initiatives bringing Ukrainians together, building the capacity of individuals, building the capacity of organizations. We decided to use the word network. And again, diaspora network I use here just to make it short, but we speak about diaspora in a very broad sense. We would like to expand the network. We would like to continue building the support and training tools We would like to promote these cross-border partnerships. You see that already the participants of these projects represented different countries, but we would like to go more. We would like to involve even more countries, grow geographically, but also grow qualitatively in many ways. And well, pilot the refugee-led civil society models. We see how Ukrainians take lead in it, and I believe that it's a great example. Ukrainians have the potential of becoming this example in many European countries, where we can do something for ourselves, our own country, but also operate in a broader context and become an example for other refugee groups. And this is also something that was mentioned by some of our participants. So the potential is there. How this network is going to look like, it's up to us. We're still in the process of designing it and visualizing and trying to bring it into the effect. But this is the process that has been initiated by this particular project. And it's also one of the things, how do you build a network that can fully open up the potential of all these proactive people who have gathered together. This is the task for us for the nearest future, and I believe that we will be able to achieve it. And I encourage those of you who have a vision to share it with us, maybe here in the chat or through any other communication. But if we build a network, it should be a common product. We will be building it together. My closing message to you today is through 3 very short statements. You saw that we call this checklist the solidarity checklist. And solidarity is a strategy. Solidarity that brings together different actors, different stakeholders, people and organizations acting together in order to achieve the common goal. And unfortunately, this Russia's war against Ukraine has shown to us how much solidarity means. Well, unfortunately, we had to have a war to see what that really, how it can really play out. But solidarity is the key and is the strategy. Collaboration builds resilience. It has been mentioned many times. Collaboration between individual actors, but also between organizations. And the final message is that the Ukrainian diaspora, in the broadest sense, is future ready. This is a well-formed source and resource to be used already now in rebuilding and reconstruction of Ukraine. This is not something that is forming. This is not something that we have gathered here to outline. This is here, it's present, it's existing, and it is future ready. Well, it's us, Ukreate Hub and Norwegian-Ukrainian Advocacy Hub. I know many of you have already received the roadmap. You also will be able to download it from our websites. The websites are mentioned here. Please follow us, stay in touch. We are active both online, on Facebook, but also through different events we're holding. And please try to use these checklists, either yourself or by sending it to the relevant stakeholders. And let's see what kind of feedback we're going to get. My hope is that these checklists will change the situation for the Ukrainian-led organizations abroad, even for the better. If we make our movement stronger, we all will benefit from it together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Natalia, for your presentation and for your work. I'm really glad that, as you said, we've clicked when we talked about our ideas, but I have to kind of take my hat off for you, your team, my team, who've been working on this document. This is truly a co-creation, a product of co-creation of 26 people who were actively contributing. Like Natalia mentioned, is not desk research, but it's a Ukrainian voice talking about suggesting what donors, private sector, host country, Ukrainians themselves abroad can do to be even more in solidarity. So just a couple, kind of, we open a little bit the space for some questions, reflections. I actually do have a tool for that. Here. I know that we are going a bit over time, but I would still very much like you to click on the link, which has been shared with you in the chat box, or you can scan the QR code. And there are just two questions, but the very specific questions that are asking you to reflect for a minute and write down your comment on what could be your or your organization specific next step. Let's say in the time frame of next 3 months. That's one question to kind of to improve the collaboration. Like when you click on the link, you can actually get the specific formulation. And the second question is about your suggestion of how can we create a stronger network of Ukrainian-led organizations abroad. Again, something that Natalia was just talking about, collaboration, solidarity. The questions are all related to what we've been talking to. And you can take 1 minute or two to answer those questions, and we can open the floor for your questions, for your reflections, comments on our work. We would be really happy to hear back from you. What do you think? Like, what are your impressions, suggestions, reflections? This is very important for us. And most importantly, whether you plan to use maybe the two tools that we have. One tool is a stakeholder guide, stakeholder solidarity checklist that, as Natalia said, you can share with your stakeholders. You can send it to your donor, or if you're a donor, you can check the boxes and see. There are also described methodology that we used to create, to engage the Ukrainians that participated in the program. And this also can be used by you. You can also reach out to us and we can guide you in that process. Natalia especially, but also our team. Let me check what's happening in the Mentimeter. We find it. Oh, just give me a moment. Right. I can see a couple of answers already and 12 people participating. So please take a minute, share your reflection here. Let me share the screen. And you can actually, there should be a possibility to vote also for the answer that you prefer. Try to share the screen. Here. Oh, more answers are coming. Very good. Thank you very much for everybody who is contributing. This is very important for us, like I said. So just once again, the question, one question is, one specific step your organization or you personally could take in the next 3 months to support cooperation with Ukrainians abroad. And the second question is, you should be able to click on the next question. There are two questions. One specific action you suggest for us, for Ukreate Hub and Norwegian-Ukrainian Advocacy Hub to implement for building a stronger network of Ukrainian-led organizations abroad. If anybody has trouble connecting to Mentimeter, please let me know or put it in the chat so that my colleagues can react. And if anybody wants to comment or share their like first-hand reflections, please just raise your hand and I'll let you speak. Share your impressions with us. Like I said, it would be very valuable for us. And for everybody who is planning to leave in the next couple of minutes because we are over time, thank you so much for joining. Anybody would like to share their impressions by speaking to the microphone? I don't see any hands. You can also just unmute yourself and speak. I can just see a lot of gratitude messages on the chat. Benjamin, thank you for the clap. Or did you want to comment?
Yeah,
Yes.
if it's okay, just
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
speaking on behalf of the Ukrainian House in Poland. First of all, thanks for the initiative and the presentation and for the toolkit. I mean, both efforts of building a network of Ukrainian led organizations in different countries in the diaspora seems really important, and that's the stakeholder the toolkit sounds like a great toolkit, which we'll be happy to try to look at in Poland and see if it works for us in Poland. I mean, I just wanted to add a couple of things from the Polish perspective, and maybe finish with the question. As you know, and it's great to see those that we've seen before in other networking meetings, that we also published a quick report on the experiences of women's-led organizations in Poland and Ukraine 2022-2024. And the feeling very much was that in 2022 in Poland there was a context in which very many new organizations were formed, and existing Ukrainian organizations grew massively, and that this diaspora response, the responsible Ukrainians who were already in Poland, was a big part of the kind of really impressive solidarity that was shown in Poland in 2022. So it was really an activization of the migrant organizations that were already here in Poland, but also there were conditions in 2022 which made it possible for refugees freshly arriving to start their initiatives, and that this was a really great potential to work with in Poland. Unfortunately, this has coincided with the kind of radical changes in the geopolitical context. So that in 2022 there was really this a lot of resources available for organizations to grow or to start their activities, and these resources are no longer there in the Polish case. And also, unfortunately, we see it really strongly in the light of the recent presidential elections that we've just had in Poland. Unfortunately, the Ukrainian topic has become a kind of political, a strong element in political populism, which has unfortunately become a kind of part of the political mainstream in Poland. So the context of the presentation of the colleague from Moldova was also really interesting, because I think there's, certainly in the Polish case and in the Polish case, this kind of new challenge of seeing much more intense disinformation, acts of fakes against Ukrainian organizations in Poland, and this becoming part of the overall political discourses means that the kind of the ambition, to activize Ukrainian organizations to build on this potential, which really seemed really, great in the light of the full-scale invasion, as horrible and tragic and as the context is, that it seemed like a new potential for the Ukrainian diaspora in Poland. That now in 24, there seemed like barriers that were not previously existing, which makes it more, challenging to, even though for the, for bigger organizations like the Ukrainian House in Poland, we're also facing this uncertainty of, where the resources can come from for us to keep going after the end of the year, and then, how to try to negotiate with political actors on various levels in Poland when, not sure that your engagement in committees and discussions of projects of new laws, are having the effects that you expected them to have. So kind of, it's kind of a micro kind of presentation, screenshot of like how I think we see the situation in Poland. But we'll of course be very enthusiastic and interested to try to build the connections. And just thinking about maybe the differences of context, I wanted to ask you both, Eugenia and Natalia, if during the workshops you saw differences between the situations for diaspora organizations between Norway and Lithuania, thinking that they're quite different countries with quite different, relationships, both geographical and cultural and social to Ukraine, but also a different place on the map of Europe and European institutions, and whether these differences came out as part of the workshops, or rather you saw the kind of building solidarity as the main topic.
Thank you, Benjamin. I think this is a very, first your comment about the context of Poland. I think it's relevant. I mean, of course, this cannot be, what we've done cannot be transplanted without adjustment to any other context. That's why also an invitation to reach out to us, and maybe we can, work together to adjust it to the realities of a particular country. And Poland is so much different than Lithuania or Norway in that sense. Many more organization, different needs, different basic needs that are not covered that well as they are in Lithuania, because the number of people, of Ukrainian people, are less than in Poland. And Norway, which has really robust system of supporting refugees that has been built over the 50 years, more than 50 years. I think it's 60 years in place. So yeah, so definitely differences in those contextual things, and also a good comment about the changing political realities, the fatigue to support Ukrainians, something that we also talk about publicly with the institutions and with the stakeholders, at least in Lithuania, that for Lithuanian context, there's definitely the need to move away from humanitarian support, which was necessary and prevalent in 2022, 2023, but there's not so much needed right now, still needed, but not on the same scale. So it has to move in a different direction. Yeah, so let's say the organizations or Ukrainian organizations that were relevant to the context in 2022, because they were providing basic support and consultations on integration, they lost their relevance right now in the context of 2025, because the needs have changed. So I think this is also an invitation for the Ukrainians who are leaders of organizations or communities to rethink what is the actual needs right now and where to move. So it's not anymore the humanitarian support or basic integration support, but maybe more work with mental health issues or advocacy issues, getting a seat in the policy-making circles, municipalities, well, national government for Lithuanian cases, much more difficult, but I think municipalities are quite open, some of them at least. So definitely know all these contexts. And to quickly answer your question about the differences in Ukrainian diaspora organizations, and I will give the word to Natalia also to respond to that. I think one thing that I've noticed is that there are less differences among the Ukrainians who were displaced because of the full-scale invasion in Norway and in Lithuania, compared to the differences of the older diaspora that has been in Norway and Lithuania since, let's say, 2014. those differences are much like bigger than because people have more integrated maybe into the Lithuanian or Norwegian society. I don't know, Natalia, maybe you have a different outlook. That was just the first comment I thought about.
No, I think very good a very good question, first of all, Benjamin, and very good comments, Eugenia. I think all of that is extremely valid. Yes, we do see the differences all the time when Ukrainians represented different countries get together and discuss things. And well, it's because the local context means a lot. And for those who ignore this fact, I think life is much more difficult because, well, you simply cannot ignore that the local conditions also have an impact on how different processes go. But at the same time, the problems in many cases remain the same. And we can see lots of similarities between different Scandinavian countries, but also between Scandinavian and Baltic countries, but also in a wider Europe. There are so many things we can discuss together. There are so many things the Ukrainian communities are facing in different countries, but also many different factors that influence the solutions we find to these problems in a different way. And this is where the local context again comes in picture. It requires all of us to be analytical. It requires all of us to be equipped with necessary evidence-based knowledge. It requires us to have a broader outlook, to know what is happening in our own country, but also understanding how these different factors can play out in other settings. And yes, we do see all these differences, and well, this is our main task, to navigate through them, to be able to advocate for Ukraine's interest in the best possible way. And it's not possible to advocate for Ukraine's interest only in Norway or only in Lithuania or only in Poland. We do our job as local organizations here, but when we cooperate and discuss all these differences, we at least start paving the way of having more impact on pan-European level. And this is what I see is our mission. That's why my wish is to enlarge the project when the representatives of different parts of Europe can come together. Not only to get the briefing on what's happening in Ukraine, but exactly to be able to discuss these very practical things. Like, for example, the topic of disinformation is one of our common pains, but it plays out so differently in different societies. Russian disinformation in particular, and propaganda and disinformation in general. Recognition of Holodomor as a genocide of the Ukrainian people, lobbying military help for Ukraine, you name it. So all of this has to be explored further with local context in mind, but a global perspective as the main purpose.
I think, like Dorina said, we need to have a common goal that unites us, and then it can be contextualized, but that common goal has to be there. But thank you, Benjamin, for the comments.
I mean, maybe just to add two more things I was thinking about while you were talking. One interesting nuance about the Polish context is, of course, that Poland has a Ukrainian ethnic minority, so that part of the diaspora in Poland is Polish citizens of Ukrainian ethnic origin who've always lived on the terrain of Poland. So there's some part of but they've also been very active in in the support of Ukraine since 2004 of the democratic transition, but also particularly in the light of the full-scale invasion. So somehow it's also kind of, I don't know, challenge the terminology to think how best to include this. But I mean, just after the workshop that we also had recently in Warsaw, that Ksenia from Ukreate Hub was involved in, there was a feeling. I mean, it was a really uplifting meeting. The situation in Poland politically was really kind of difficult, but there was the feeling that the Ukrainian women's-led organizations, leaders from Czech Republic, from Germany, from Ukraine, and also from Poland, as well as you from Lithuania, that there was a real energy, desire, common goal, commonality of experience that really was the basis of a new kind of new power that needs to be built on. I think it's just really difficult in a situation where we and many other organizations like us in Poland are really struggling for resources and how to, continue with what we're doing, how to find the time and energy necessary to, and person power necessary to, engage and build in the network. But it seems to me absolutely vital, for us as an organization to try and consolidate a little bit more the network within Poland, but also, build international networks. It seems like a key, a really key step. So we'll be very happy to be involved in whatever way we can in the continuation of your project.
Thank you, Benjamin. That really like sums it up. Like, especially, I like the word vital. It's a vital step to create the network. We also believe that we see it can be hard. It requires resources and dedication, but we also see it as a huge resource for the common goal of a victorious, democratic European Ukraine. So I think it's absolutely vital that we have that network that we can rely on in times of struggle for joint advocacy and for many other things. And I think I'm really happy that our energies clicked with Norwegian-Ukrainian Advocacy Hub to start this project, but we are really keen on finding a way to scale it up and to bring it to other countries and to do more. Maybe somebody wants to add something to this conversation. You are welcome to pitch in. You can also do it in Ukrainian if you feel more comfortable, because I can see also some of the participants who were co-creating this document still in the chat. If anybody wants to say something, this is your chance before we close this meeting. Anyone? I think not. Well, then our contact information is here. We'll send a follow-up email, including the document that was produced with the checklists for stakeholders, with the description of the methodology, with our contacts and invitation to cooperate in the future. Please also, we'll include a link to subscribe for Ukreate Hub newsletter in English, where you can follow any future events. I want to thank the team. Thank you, Ukreate Hub team. Thank you, Norwegian-Ukrainian Advocacy Hub team for doing this. We've done it in a very short time, very intense. Still recovering, still doing reports as required, but the job is done. Congratulations to us, and let's work together for creating that infrastructure for a stronger network of Ukrainian-led organizations. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.